And aloha, America. And this is for the YouTube audience. We still have not received a connection from a public broadcasting. So I'm just going to start talking to the YouTube audience here, and hopefully we'll be getting a connection in the next minute or so. And basically, oh, looks like maybe we're about to get it. I don't know. There we are.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, September 27th, 2018. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. And we've got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot really going on here. The Kavanaugh hearings. Christine Ford did show up to testify. It's a real circus, and we're going to be talking a lot about that. Meanwhile, the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations here. So again, the hearing got underway today. The Democrats were all smiling and laughing, and they just thought it was going to be, a fun old time today. And the Judiciary Committee did not accede to Ford's request that Kavanaugh testify first. They let her make her claims first, and Kavanaugh is now in the process of responding. And the Democrats are not going easy on him at all. They're still desperate to derail this whole situation. But for those of you trying to catch up, here's a quick summary of Christine Ford's testimony. I don't recall. I don't remember. I assumed. I'm a little slower. My mind is a little tired. And basically, there wasn't really a lot of substance there. But she's sitting there with her lawyer, and rather interestingly, there's a video of Sheila Jackson Lee passing an envelope of some kind to Christine Ford's attorney, which he very quickly puts into his inside coat pocket. So it's not a note, or he would have opened it and read it. So that right there is very suspicious. Christine Ford herself started out her interview giggling and asking for coffee. Apparently, her whole issue was the trauma of it all, how Kavanaugh's assault drastically altered her life and changed her forever, and just really playing up the bathos of the whole thing, and playing to the gallery of the Democrats and the liberals who are out there. They're out there for Ford's. They're Kavanaugh's blood, rather. Interestingly enough, do you remember when they were trying to delay this hearing, delay, and one of the excuses was that Christine Ford wanted to drive to Washington, D.C. because she's afraid of flying, and yet, under oath, before the Senate Judiciary Committee, admitted that she flies a lot. She's a jet setter. And so... again, her credit, she's not trustworthy. She's absolutely not trustworthy, and I think a lot of people already came to that conclusion here. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Apparently, another individual has come forward saying that he is the one that had the encounter with Christine Ford all the way back there in 1982, and that she may have mistaken him for Kavanaugh. And remember, there was a little while ago where there were these two yearbook pictures of these two kids. One was Kavanaugh, and the other one, looked just like him. And apparently, the Senate Judiciary Committee have now interviewed him and also one other guy. So there's now two saying that they were the ones who may have had the encounter with Christine Ford rather than Kavanaugh, and that her memory, which she admits is not all that great, she may have misidentified him. Tom Fitton over at Judicial Watch is out there saying he'd love to find out just how Senator Feinstein handled the Kavanaugh information, especially now that the unredacted memo has been denounced as a fake. But unfortunately, the Freedom of Information Act, for some reason, does not apply to Congress. And Fitton is saying that may be due for a change because corruption thrives on secrecy, and that certainly is true with the United States Congress here. Now, the other day, of course, we were talking about how Christine Ford supposedly passed a polygraph test that was administered in Maryland, and she flew in for that, by the way. And I mentioned that polygraphs are notoriously unreliable. They are not admissible evidence in a court of law for that reason. And very often, the operator can skew the results one way or the other. And it turns out that the man who administered Christine Ford's polygraph, Jeremiah Hanifin, is a hardcore liberal. And basically, when it was all over, submitted basically a memo saying, I think she's telling the truth. That's basically it. Now, Christine Ford named 4 witnesses that she claimed would back up the alleged assault. All of them have now basically said no, that they have no information about it. The latest one is to come on back is named Kaiser, Leland Ingham Kaiser. That's actually the attorney representing the former classmate, says the client does not know Mr. Kavanaugh, and she has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present, with or without Christine Ford. So this is now the 4th person cited as a witness to support Christine Ford who has now said no. It didn't happen. They have no knowledge that it happened. We're going to do a shout out now to our Honor affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. Then, of course, we have the second accuser, Ramirez. That story was particularly shaky. It was run by the New Yorker anyway in what is clearly journalistic malfeasance. There was no substance to the story. She admits she's got memory gaps. She wasn't sure about this. She wasn't sure about that. And the story, of course, Ramirez was out there saying that she thinks it was Kavanaugh who exposed his male private parts to her at a party. And she's been encouraged to go along with the story. And it strikes me as a little bit odd when you look at the liberal mindset, because when a man shows his male private parts in a living room, it's sexual assault. But when he does it in the ladies' room, it's tolerance. So another little double standard here. All right, we're going to do a quick phone call here from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, I've been watching this whole thing with Ford and Kavanaugh, even though Kavanaugh just started. And Ford is, I mean, she was, Mike, I mean, did you notice she was like ready to tear up, but she didn't tear. And then a couple minutes later, she's giggling. It's a joke.
She was trying to cry.
Sorry, but
she was trying to cry. I mean, you know, I've worked in show business. I've done acting. I've coached actors. I know how that works. She was trying to bring tears up, and she couldn't quite get there.
Mike, remember that the school shooting? What was it? The one where the father it came out, and then before, he warmed up.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, that was at Sandy Hook. Where the guy comes out of the building for his news conference and he's laughing and he's joking and everything. He says, okay, give me a second. And just, and he goes down into this thing about, I've been traumatized by the loss of my child. And that video in and of itself basically showed that the whole thing was just a fake.
But the whole thing, Mike, it shows you what's capable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like what these people can pull off Well, if they have the amount of resources, they can find anybody to come up with any allegation they want, Mike. And how do you disprove it? 36 years later, my God. I mean, come on now. I can't. Can you remember having one beer 36 years ago? Give me a freaking break. Come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
there are memorable things that happen in your life that you do remember. Okay, and I think being assaulted would definitely qualify as one of them. But we have these accusers who are saying they're fuzzy on the details, they're not sure, they don't remember. I mean, Ford said she didn't remember where it happened, exactly when it happened, but she's pretty sure it was Kavanaugh. And now, of course, we've got these other two guys saying, it might have been us. I guess Christine Ford was a bit of a party girl.
But yeah, I mean, popping open a Heineken or a Coors Light's not a real. I mean, how do you remember one beer, at that particular party when she was 15, and she didn't even have a car, so she was driven. I mean, the whole thing smells because it's bull. It's bull. It's a setup.
Yep.
It's a trap.
Yep.
And like I said the other day, they'll have more lined up because this is what it's about. This is all politics, Mike. Plain and simple politics, and not about honesty and trustworthy. There's no dignity, honor anymore in this country, Mike. I mean,
it's from the liberal point of view, it's win at all cost.
And that's all I got to say, Mike. I wanted to talk about Syria, but I'll call in tomorrow about that.
Okay, that'll be fine. I mean, a lot going on over in Syria. Thank you for the phone call.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, we're going to let you go here. Now then, we have the third accuser against Brett Kavanaugh. This is the one who claimed that she was a witness to Brett Kavanaugh and his friends drugging girls at parties in order to set them up for gang rapes. I mean, the allegations get more and more sensational, and I guess the theory was they'd be so shocking, people would say, it must be true. The big lie strategy. The more shocking a lie is, the more people tend to believe it. But apparently, her estranged father is saying he's shocked by the allegations. Apparently, she never told anybody about any of this until it came up just now. So this is Julie Swetnick, who's 55, and it turns out that she has a history of money troubles. She's been in serious financial trouble. Recently, it seems to have rather mysteriously cleared up here. But a guy who claims he grew up near her family says that she is a delusional whack job. And apparently she had substance abuse issues as well. In fact, she is potentially violent because for a while she was dating this guy, and then he broke it up, and she just went ballistic on him. The boyfriend was Richard Vinici, who told Politico that the two had dated for 4 years and then they broke up, and he had to file a restraining order on her because she was threatening his family. After he got married, she was threatening his wife and threatening to harm his baby. So this does not sound like somebody who's particularly stable here. Okay, we're going to take another phone call. Fred in Michigan, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Fred, are you there? I'm not hearing Fred in Michigan. Do we have a technical issue? Oh, he dropped. All right, fine. Over at, again, the Judiciary Committee, apparently 60 of the people who went to high school with Kavanaugh have now signed a letter saying they don't even know this Julie Swetnick, that they don't even think she actually went to high school there. And don't forget, there is a big hole in her story. She claims that all these train gang rapes were taking place in 81 and 82. She graduated high school in 1980. I think it's time somebody checked the yearbooks on this one. But 60 of Kavanaugh's classmates are saying they have nothing to back up any of this stuff. And in a last-ditch effort, and it shows the desperation of the liberals, late yesterday, they came up with a fourth accuser. And this was an anonymous complaint sent to Senator Cory Gardner of Colorado. And it claims that Kavanaugh physically assaulted a woman in 1998. And they're saying that they'd both been drinking, and he pushed her up against the wall and rubbed himself against her. But the sender of the complaint wants to remain anonymous. The person to whom the assault supposedly happened wants to remain anonymous. There were plenty of witnesses, but they all want to remain anonymous. So you have an anonymous accuser claiming to represent an anonymous victim and anonymous witnesses. Next, they're going to come up with an accusation that Kavanaugh likes to put hamsters in the microwave oven. We're going to go back to the phones here to Steve Elkins. Aloha, Steve. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, the circus, that reminds me of that Abbott and Costello, who's on first. Nobody's seen. This is quite amusing, but actually very serious. But the thing I have to say about this whole idea of testifying would be the assumption that you would have some clear, concrete evidence, some proof to back up the accusation and allegation, which he does not. So, Dianne Feinstein's talking about an investigation by the FBI. Well, we've had 5 or 6 already on him. Prior to becoming a nominee, he's been checked out, cleared, no problems there. But this is dangerous precedent we're being exposed to here in the future. If this is pulled off, there clearly is a war in all men, because a finger can always be pointed that a man did something. Of course, it's a false accusation, and the benefit of doubt always goes to the female victim, supposedly. And this is very dangerous territory we're heading into, and it's way outside. It's not even part of the rule of law. It's outside the rule of law, but the Democrats appear to be rewriting the law, and that the accuser is always to be taken 100%, especially if it's a female.
Yes.
She's concrete solid as evidence, and this is not right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole Democratic push on this is there is no presumption of innocence when you're talking about these kind of crimes. Sexual assault is such a terrible thing that even innocence cannot be used as a defense. But there's nothing new about that. We went through this once before back in the 1990s with the militant feminist male bash rape hysteria. And a lot of innocent men had their lives ruined. Some went to prison. And it really did get out of control, and it was a terrible witch hunt. And when it all fell apart and collapsed, the people who were really most harmed by it were the real victims of rape, because police departments had been so sued by all these innocently convicted, innocently prosecuted men. They started pulling back and saying, we don't want to listen. We got burned the last time that we listened to a rape victim. But the feminist leadership really didn't care about ordinary women. They were just there to make their political gain. And now they're trying to bring it back here. You've got people like Dianne Feinstein and Mazie Hirono are out there saying that, no, women always tell the truth, and they should be believed, and men are always going to lie, and you shouldn't listen to Kavanaugh. Which is why I said the other day, all Kavanaugh has to say is, I identify as a woman, and then the liberals will say, oh, well, he's got to be telling the truth when he says it didn't happen. I mean, that's how silly all of this has become.
Yeah, it really is. I saw Jimmy Kimball. Of course, he's siding with the left there, the Me Too's, and that he should have it cut off. I mean, this is ridiculous. Again, accusations, allegations, or rumors, not concrete proof. It would be thrown out of court of law. If it's thrown out of court of law, we shouldn't even be hearing this woman. And this thing is quite the circus. If you're a Seinfeld fan, and I was a huge Seinfeld fan back in the day, as far as the polygraph test goes, George Costanza would tell you, you can pass them. It's not a lie if you believe it.
Yes.
And I do believe that's true.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. And the phone lines are open again here. Somebody did a study over the last 12 days since Dianne Feinstein publicly announced that she had this allegation against Kavanaugh regarding sexual assault. And somebody basically tallied up the news coverage. And the major corporate media spent the vast majority of their time on the allegations themselves and very little on Kavanaugh's denials and the lack of corroboration for any of the accusers' accounts. They spent basically on the evening shows, nearly 6 hours. Oh, he's been accused. He's been accused. Oh, it's a terrible thing. He's been accused. Well, he's denying it. Well, we don't need to report that. We'll stick it in, after the weather report or something like that. So it is a huge, huge circus. And apparently they've just come back from recess, and Kavanaugh now has his turn at bat. So we'll be back after these words from our sponsors.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And let me just finish this up. I just got an email from somebody up in Canada basically saying if they hear the name Kavanaugh one more time, they're just going to freak out. And basically saying the same thing that I was saying, I think it was last week. We're being conditized. We're seeing this run up to a major military confrontation someplace in uh, the Middle East, and it's just absolutely not on the screens of America's corporate media, not at all. All right, let's grab a couple of phone calls here. Miles in Maine, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Yes, I agree with what you just said about we're being diverted here, but I wanted to comment on this Kavanaugh thing. Here's the thing that I look at. In the worst case scenario, so what? You go ahead, you confirm Kavanaugh. If you have a lawsuit, you bring Ayanati or whoever he is and these other three. She's got all the legal clowns she needs. Then you go ahead, you sue them, you impeach them, you charge them with perjury, and you put them in jail. You got a clear-cut case if you can prove it. So why sit here and prove it to the Senate, which is beyond their, venue? And this is just a crazy media stunt.
Well, it's politics. I mean, none of this stuff that has been brought up would stand up either in a criminal court or a civil proceeding. That's just the hard fact. There's nothing to back it up. The Democrats are screaming FBI investigation, FBI investigation. They want to stall this. They want to hold off the final vote on the confirmation until after the November elections. And if they seize control of the Senate, then they'll stall it until after the first of the year. So they're going to fight this thing tooth and nail. But the reality is, again, these cases are flimsy on the face of them. They've got absolutely nothing to go on. The FBI's already said they're not going to investigate it. First of all, for two reasons. They've got nothing to go on. They've got some faulty memories of something that happened 36 years ago. There were no police reports filed. There are no corroborating witnesses. There's no physical evidence. And because none of these actions involve the crossing of state lines, technically it's not FBI jurisdiction in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And the only part that concerns me is the Republicans are making themselves look so weak to keep capitulating to this stuff with the midterm elections, and it makes somebody who would ordinarily want to support them say, my God, if they're this weak on something like this, how are we ever going to get their heads turned on foreign policy or anything else? So anyway, thank you very much, Michael.
Well, thank you very much. I think the GOP's strategy is that they want to at least give the appearance of working with the Democrats on this. So the Democrats can't campaign on the GOP was obstructing us when we were doing our due diligence on Kavanaugh. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people are seeing that this has gone on way too long. The Republicans should have put a stop to this a long, long time ago. And I think even Rush Limbaugh the other day was out there saying that if the GOP does not confirm Kavanaugh, they will take a clubbing in the midterms. So thank you for the phone call, Miles. We're going to let you go and switch over to Errol in the Netherlands. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hello, Mike. Nui nui.
Aloha, nui nui.
Nui nui. Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for taking my phone call, and I want to ask you a question. We are here in this world, and the sun. I want to know if you know this, and if your audience know this. How many times does the Earth fit into the sun? So how many Earths can fit into the sun?
Well, it's a lot. I don't recall the number off the top of my head. It's been a lot of years since I actually worked as an astronomer.
1.3 million times.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's okay, yeah. Anyway, the midterm elections and what we're seeing now is happening also in Syria. And so all things come together. And I want to say to you, Trump does do good business. I see this when I see Nikki Haley and all those people behind him, and the new what is it, Kavanaugh? Let it be. It's going to a right direction, because I see something happening in the United States, also in Europe. And Europe is also now with the so-called Brexit. It's another PR stunt, you know that. But the Brexit and everything, I see it going into a positive way. So I don't see how do we call it, a conflict. Okay, Israel did some again. Well, Israel, okay, again they messed it up. They're trying to get the needle in there. You know, they're poking, but it doesn't work that way anymore nowadays because we are in a front for a multi-version, not
Okay, Errol?
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Errol, I need to put you on pause. I'm going to put you on hold. We got to take another break for commercials.
Okay,
Do
okay,
not
okay.
hang up. I'm going to come right back to you after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Errol in the Netherlands, and we're talking about, well, a lot of different things. Obviously, Kavanaugh is uppermost in the news, but as Errol and also the email writer from Canada pointed out, there are things going on which are being withheld from us. They don't want the American people thinking about what's going on between Israel, Russia, Syria, China. The whole world is definitely edging toward a hot war, and we should all be paying attention, and we should be very, very concerned.
Yeah, we could be concerned, of course, but I think personally, when we see this with Kavanaugh and everything, you know, this is I call it a sideshow. It's a sideshow because they messed up in Syria, they messed up in the whole Middle East. You can say what you want to say, but that's the fact.
Yes.
They messed up. And it's a sideshow, and anyways, there are midterm elections coming in America, so that's very interesting to see. Also, what you now see here in Europe with Angela Merkel. Now, I think today was Erdogan, President Erdogan from Turkey, went to Germany, and my mother said to me, she said she's also like 81 years old, my mother. And she said to me, yeah, Erdogan said to Merkel that she's Hitler. So I was like, oh my, get over this, man, come on, you know. But I didn't say that like this. I said, this is all illusion, you know. And they messed up. The West messed up. The West messed so up. And you see now a deflection also in media. They want to point you away from the real stuff that's happening. We finance the terrorists. We financed them. We created them. And now it's like, oh, I don't see that. I haven't seen that, you know. Like, oh, I didn't do it. It's not my bad, you know. And all that la 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 la. Anyways, Mike, thank you for taking my call. And I wish you a good day, and Claire also.
All right, well, thank you very much here. We're going to let you go and switch over to Glenn in Philadelphia. Aloha, Glenn. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Wow, it's not every day I get to follow a happy, mildly drunk Dutchman. That's interesting.
I don't think he's inebriated.
Oh, okay. There's conjecturing there. Okay, now, in this whole process going on with Kavanaugh, it's kind of astounding to watch the media, the news. I mean, the news media are conducting a trial in the media of Kavanaugh. The man's not on trial. The man's up for nomination for one of the highest offices in the land. So that, and what the comedians are saying, and what these accusers are saying, all are lying. And I think there's a question in a lot of people's minds: how in the world can they bring themselves to do this? And there's a very concrete answer to that. This is normally something I would discuss, you know, with Chris Hinckley on his program, where we wax a little more philosophical. And I really want to make this point, and I know most people have very little tolerance for philosophy. It's like religion and politics. You don't talk about it in parties, and it's a bunch of wordy, airy, very inapplicable stuff. But in ethics is one of the disciplines of philosophy. And one of the great divides in ethics is between what's called deontological ethics and consequentialist ethics.
Yes.
Some people have heard of situational ethics or utilitarian ethics. These are consequentialist schools. This is the key to how these people bring themselves to behave this way, because the clarion call of consequentialist ethics is that the ends justify the means.
Yes.
And this is how they, yeah, right. And so when we want to deny a Kavanaugh presumption of innocence, when we want to deny him due process, when we want to file false allegations that haven't counted, or lie to the extreme, it's because they honestly believe that their ends, which they believe to be good, justify the means.
Yeah, it's the true
nation,
believer philosophy, and that gets us into trouble time and time again. People who truly believe, because they serve a higher purpose, that the rules and laws should not apply to them.
Exactly, and this is a huge principle. This is a huge in deontological ethics. Truth matters. Principle takes precedent over passion, and that is how you keep, a nation state running on the rails. You start saying that the ends justify the means, and you allow for almost anything,
Yes.
including things like genocide.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, that's that. All right, that was my axe to grind, Mike.
All right, well,
So
thanks
anyway,
an awful
all right,
lot.
well, thank you for letting me get that out.
You got it, and thank you for the phone call, and thank you for the rundown. But you're absolutely right. When you get to this idea where it's okay to lie, cheat, steal, and kill because you serve a higher, more noble purpose, you're heading down a really bad path. So, getting on back to the hearings here, apparently one of the things that came out when Christine Ford was testifying is she claims she doesn't know what the word exculpatory means. So, I wonder what her degree is in. Hawaii's Senator Mazie Hirono, who is locally becoming a huge embarrassment to us, apparently is exploiting the hearings to send out a fundraising email because she's up for re-election on the midterms. And the email is out there saying, I am working hard to get Brett Kavanaugh, and because I'm doing that, I can't be out fundraising, so you've got to send me more money. So it's a rather shameless pander there. But as a matter of fact, over at change.org, there is actually a petition out there to censure and remove Senator Mazie Hirono. And as we get closer to the midterms, I may get a little more involved with our local politics and say, you know, this kind of behavior is not acceptable. It doesn't look good for the Aloha State because you had Mazie Hirono out there just telling that men should just shut up, you know, and do the right thing. She was out there supporting this idea there should be no presumption of innocence. She's abandoning the guiding principles of our nation in her wrath against Kavanaugh. She's trying to tell men they should not have a right to freedom of speech. So she may have a tough time getting reelected, depending upon how much election fraud we have here. All right, so moving on from that, let's talk about what is going on in the war zones. We are hearing now that Russia may have pulled a bit of a fast one, because following the shootdown of the Ilyushin 20, Russia announced they were going to be sending S-300s to Syria within 2 weeks, and it turns out they're already there. They got them on the plane that night, and they got them in there so that Israel couldn't try and interdict them and shoot them out of the air. So they're definitely moving them in there. And of course, Israel's very angry because back in 2013, Israel had put pressure on Russia to not allow Syria to have the S-300, and Russia acceded to that. Well, Russia has now changed their mind, and they're basically building an air defense system over all of Syria now. It's going to be massive here. And the Syrian official, Syria's Deputy Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad, is saying that the S-300 should give Israel pause, and that they should have had it years ago, and a lot of destruction by Israel in Syria would have been avoided. Now, I don't know how much pause they're going to get, because Netanyahu is already out there saying Israel is going to continue to strike Syria despite the S-300 defenses. We don't care how many planes we lose because the Americans are going to pay for them anyway, and I don't care how many pilots we have to lose because it's not my rear end that's in that cockpit. So Netanyahu is talking tough. Here is the interesting comment that Netanyahu made. He is claiming that Trump has given Israel guarantees about freedom of Israeli operations in Syria. And I'm pretty sure it's not up to Trump what Israel can or cannot do in Syria. It's up to the Syrian government and their allies like Russia. And I think this point here it's a very dangerous situation, because these new S-300 missile defenses in Syria could set off a real shooting war with Israel. And Israel does have nuclear weapons. Now, of course, the political cost of using one would be enormous because Israel still maintains nuclear ambiguity, although Netanyahu was definitely dropping hints at that speech in front of the Dimona reactor. But Israel has made a pledge that they would not be the first nation to introduce nuclear weapons to the Middle East, even though they already have them. So this thing could really get out of control. And I'm sure that Israel's government would be perfectly willing to sacrifice a few planes to get a shooting war going, which the United States would come in on. There's already an agreement between the U.S. government and the government of Israel that the U.S. government will back Israel in any war, even if Israel starts it. So we could find ourselves literally in a hot war with Russia. Not a good idea. Everybody is trying to calm things down over there. Iran has come on out and said that if Israel bombs Syria again, there will be what they describe as a regrettable reaction. And a senior Iranian military official basically came out and said the Zionist regime is seeking to stabilize crisis. I think they meant destabilize crisis in Syria, has taken measures in direct support of terrorist groups and for hitting the Syrian army and the forces fighting against terrorism. This is coming from Ali Shamkhani, Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council. And that has been the reality. Israel is bombing Syrian forces, especially around the Golan, which is an act of war. Israel's the belligerent in all of this, backed up, of course, by the United States of America. Over in Raqqa, there's been yet another mass grave of civilians killed by U.S. airstrikes found. This one was relatively small, 14 bodies. But again, civilians are dying in these war zones. Okay. Netanyahu, when he did his speech up at the United Nations, and a lot of people could have seen this coming, he immediately came on out and said, Iran has a secret atomic warehouse in Tehran. Remember when he did that thing with the cartoon bomb? So, early today, Netanyahu was speaking at the General Assembly and said that Iran has a secret atomic warehouse which contains as much as 300 tons of nuclear-related material. And he held up the usual fuzzy photograph with labels all over it. And so he's back out there pushing it. Iran is going to get nukes. Iran is going to get nukes. Go kill them for us. Adding regional tensions, apparently the Turkish Air Force has launched a powerful attack across northern Iraq into the Kurdish zone. Apparently they're attacking the PKK, the Kurdistan Workers' Party, in a number of regions across northern Iraq. So it was a big, big attack. Place is just rocking and rolling. Another area of tension, of course, is the Eastern Mediterranean, because there are more and more military ships starting to cluster in that area. And supposedly it's to contain Syria, to thwart Russian aggression. Nobody's really sure what's going on, but you've got the Russian ships over there. You've got warships from the standing NATO Maritime Group 2. Everybody's in there. Netherlands, Greece, the Royal Canadian Navy. There are 4 American Tomahawk destroyers, the USS Carney, USS Ross, USS Winston Churchill, and USS Bulkley. And now you have, of course, the carrier strike group centered on the USS Harry S. Truman, the missile cruiser USS Normandy. And don't forget, there is that SSGN Arsenal ship out there somewhere. So if somebody makes a mistake, we could see the biggest naval battle since the Jutland. Russia is beefing up their Crimean defense with another battalion of S-400s, bringing it to a total of 4 battalions of the advanced air defense system in the Crimean Peninsula. because that is a major strategic strong point for the military, and it is home of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. Now, when the U.S. backed the overthrow of Ukraine and put in Poroshenko, the goal was that Poroshenko would tell Russia to get out of Crimea and basically kick them out of the Black Sea. That didn't happen because Crimea seceded, and that's what kicked up that whole fuss about, oh, Russia stole Crimea, they stole it, those evil, evil, evil people. So the battalion of S-400s consists of 8 launchers, 112 missiles, and the command and support vehicles. And this latest one has been deployed in western Crimea. And the earlier 2 battalions were deployed to Feodosia and Sevastopol. So everybody is arming up here. Down in Iran, apparently Iran's government is starting to point the finger of blame at Saudi Arabia for that attack on the military parade in Khuzestan that killed 25 people and wounded a lot others. And the question is being asked, is Saudi Arabia taking the war inside Iran? And that is backed up by another article that came out of Sputnik News on how Saudi Arabia has a very specific plan on how it wants to remap Iran. Now, things are going very badly in Syria. They're going very badly in Libya. They're going terrible in Afghanistan. And yet the United States and their allies are getting ready to wade into another mess in Iran. And Iran is going to be a very different kind of situation than these other little tiny, more or less helpless countries that the U.S. has been pushing around. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And the Kavanaugh hearing is still going on. And the Democrats' strategy now is to basically tell Kavanaugh, well, if you're really innocent, then you should be the one calling for an FBI investigation on all of these claims. And, of course, Kavanaugh is saying, I'll do whatever the committee wants. And the FBI has already said they're not going to investigate. They've got nothing to work with. This is just the Democrats trying to delay. And I have a feeling this could get even uglier before it's all over. All right, moving on back to the war zone here. Hawaii's Representative Tulsi Gabbard. Boy, would I like to see her in Mazie Hirono's Senate seat. But Tulsi Gabbard and other lawmakers have introduced a bipartisan resolution that would compel the U.S. military to stop giving support for Saudi Arabia's genocidal war in Yemen. Basically, the U.S. is providing tanker support, material support, and it's a humanitarian disaster. And I think the turning point was when Saudi Arabia dropped that bomb on a school bus. But there's a lot of money tied up in there. You know, Trump administration reaffirmed its support for the illegal war, apparently because there's a $2 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia and the UAE. We're living through the nightmare that Eisenhower warned us we were going to be dealing with the military-industrial complex. Apparently, another Palestinian has been killed as Israeli troops fire on the Gaza protests. They're still going at it here. And here's another example of Israel's arrogance and disdain for the law. Israel is building a rail link, a high-speed rail link from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem that passes through parts of the occupied West Bank. And it's a $2 billion project to build this link between Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport and Jerusalem, which would basically have trains traveling at up to 100 miles an hour. And the train is going to run through parts of the occupied West Bank, such as the Palestinian village of Beit Surik. And despite the fact that the rail link will illegally use Palestinian land, Palestinians will not be allowed to use the train system. It's an Israeli-only train, just like the Israeli-only roads. A lot of people have forgotten about those. There are roads that are very nice roads built in Israel to which the Palestinians are forbidden to use. Here's an article that came out of LabourPartyMarxist.org over in Great Britain, basically saying why Israel has become a racist state. And they're talking about the basic law that was just passed in July, Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people, saying it didn't really change anything because Israel has always had one set of laws and rules for the Jewish people and another set for the Palestinian Arabs. Okay, we got to take a break here for station identification. Back with hour number 2 after these few words.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. You'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking about military actions around the world. Now, a year ago, Donald Trump announced that the U.S. was considering a military option for Venezuela. And nobody really thought it was a good idea. Now all of a sudden it's starting to get a lot of support. The economic war has not succeeded in bringing down the government of President Maduro, and so now the talk around Washington D.C. is, yeah, let's just go ahead and invade. You know, we'll come up with a reason after the fact. It doesn't really matter here. Over in the South China Sea, the United States is again flying B-52 bombers near the Chinese islands. Now, the media still says they're disputed. They're not disputed. The ownership of the islands was established at the end of World War II with the Cairo Convention. Prior to World War II, they had been Chinese islands. Japan took them over during World War II. When World War II was over, all the victorious nations got together and they basically wrote up this agreement, which included a provision that said these islands go back to China. Everybody agreed, including the United States. So the only dispute is that there are other nations there who covet these islands, because now they know there is some oil and gas underneath there. So they say, I want those islands. Well, they belong to somebody else. It doesn't matter. I want them. Therefore, they are now disputed. So, again, provoking China. Just give them a poke in the ribs with the B-52s here. One of the things that Donald Trump was claiming when he was speaking at the United Nations is that now China is out to meddle in the 2018 elections, and because it opposes his tough trade policies. Well, I guess the Russians are off the hook now. And, of course, there's no evidence. There was no evidence Russia was meddling, no evidence China's meddling. But if the Democrats do retake the Congress, that's what Trump is going to do. He's going to blame it on Russia or China. They came on, they stole the Congress from us. That means war. Little bit of good news. Apparently, Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who is normally a hardliner on North Korea, is now saying he's willing to meet Kim Jong-un. And he made this announcement at the United Nations. Now, the issue between North Korea and Japan is claiming that North Korea kidnapped Japanese civilians. And it is a very powerful issue for the Japanese public. Abe campaigned on it. He built his public career on it. So now he says it's time to resolve the abduction issue. And I think that would be a good thing. I think Abe is willing to meet with Kim Jong-un because he's watching very closely what Kim Jong-un is doing with Moon Jae-in. And I think Abe is realizing that the two Koreas are going to reunite. And then he's going to have to deal with Korea's leadership as a potential trading partner. Now, historically, there's always been a lot of animosity between the Koreans and the Japanese, and it goes back centuries. I don't think it's going to go away very quickly, but business is business. Let's make some money. We have been talking about whether America is really prepared to go to war on a massive scale against other countries. We've been talking about the deficiencies of the F-22. We're still trying to follow up on that story where a Russian pilot in a Sukhoi 25 claims to have been able to get radar lock on an F-22 Raptor, which means he could have shot it down. We've been talking about the Freedom and Independence class littoral combat ships, which had corrosion issues and drivetrain problems, and are now going to be dropped. They're never going to see combat. The Navy is going back to the draft board, because this so-called modular armament system that allowed for rapid reconfiguration of the ship for various missions, they couldn't get it to work properly. I remember seeing a documentary about one of these littoral combat ships at sea trials. It had to do the last day of the sea trials tied to the dock. Now we're seeing this article that came out of Russia Today, and somebody apparently did an analysis of the deployment records for America's aircraft carriers, which are the mainstay of naval power projection for the United States. And apparently they're spending more and more time in the dock for maintenance and repair than they are on deployment. So analysis of the deployment data for the last 50 years shows that the Navy currently has fewer carriers than ever. The United States Naval Institute reported this on Wednesday. So this is coming from the people on the inside. Only 15% of America's carriers were committed to operational deployments this year, compared to a 28% average for the rest of the era of the War on Terror. For 22 days this summer, the Navy did not have a single aircraft carrier group underway anywhere in the world. That's the longest such gap in the entire 50 years studied. Some of those carriers are getting very, very old. And we know the newer carriers coming on, they're not built all that well. They've still got all kinds of problems with the Gerald Ford. There are some people in the Navy who say that it may never actually be usable in combat. Too many whiz-bang gadgets. Because again, these defense contractors, they're there to make money. They're there to make the most profit they can, and they're really not thinking about the poor kids who are going to have to actually use these weapons potentially in a conflict zone. The reason Russia and China have such superb weapons for much less money than the United States is because their defense industries understand their job is to come up with something that works really, really well. I have been talking about how the United States has become an empire in decline, and it is, and I'm not the only one saying so. And there was an article over again in Russia Today saying that it's time for the United States to come to terms with its new place in the world, just as Britain did when its empire collapsed. And that's absolutely exactly what's going on. And instead, we have a government that's out there trying to reassert its greatness by reconquering the empire. And we've had 17 years of war, longer than World War I and World War II put together, and we're stuck in all these quagmires all over the planet. If Bernie Sanders is right, we have military forces in 76 different countries. Our military is spread very, very thin. Our weapon systems are wearing out. The stockpiles have got to be all but empty. Everyone's screaming about manpower shortages and trying to lower the requirements for recruitment. Claire thinks that after the midterm elections, they will bring back the draft. And in a way, I hope they do, because that will wake up the American people, because that's what happened in Vietnam. Prior to the draft, Vietnam, other side of the world, we don't really care. The people who were fighting over there were recruited. They chose to go. Lots of little wars all over the place. We don't care. As soon as the draft came around, everybody stood up and said, okay, this is it. The Department of Homeland Security is asking Congress for more powers to combat against malicious drones that could threaten the United States of America. And apparently they're concerned about the use of drones to transport narcotics across the border, which definitely would seem feasible, or weaponized drones by terrorists. And the only way they're really going to be able to deal with that is to outlaw drones, at which point only outlaws will have drones. Over in Great Britain, apparently the media there is now dropping the story about this Russian model who was claiming that Vladimir Putin is trying to kill her. And apparently she and her husband got sick at a restaurant in Salisbury, and everybody was screaming, nerve agent, nerve agent, nerve agent. The authorities checked and said, no, there's no nerve agent. Then she came on out. Her name is Anna Shapiro, and said, well, Putin's trying to kill me with rat poison. And at this point, it turned out this is a PR stunt. The anti-Putin, Russia-bashing people took advantage of it. But apparently, at the same time she was making this claim to get some press, she was doing a sexy photo shoot, because she's a lingerie model. That's what she does for a living. And hey, her name gets in the press, she gets more business, gets more money. Remember the other day when Donald Trump was speaking to the United Nations about America's accomplishments, and he got laughed at? Nikki Haley, interviewed on Fox, came on out and said, well, the world leaders laughed at Trump at the UN out of respect. Laughing at another world leader, that's a sign of respect here. That they loved his honesty. That's really stretching it there, Nikki. Even Donald Trump is on trying to dismiss the huge, obvious humiliation here. And Trump is saying, they weren't laughing at me, they were laughing with me. Okay, then why did you say you didn't expect that reaction, Donald? Now, we had a caller who called into the show yesterday about this. The Chief Executive Officer of Ford, James Hackett, is out there saying that, yes, the trade war is hurting his company, especially the tariffs on metals, and it's cost Ford $1 billion in profits. And he made the comments yesterday at a Bloomberg conference in New York City. And apparently Ford is feeling constrained about trying to raise prices to the end consumer because sales are still sluggish. They're trying to keep the vehicles prices attractive to consumers, because we're in the time of year when the 2019s are rolling on out, and most of the dealerships still can't get rid of the 2018s. So they're saying it's about $1 billion in profits they have lost, which is not going to make the stockholders very happy. Story coming out of Investment Watch blog. Apparently, corporate insiders are selling stocks at the fastest pace in the last 10 years. And it may be another indicator that all these people screaming about an inevitable stock market crash may be right. Because we know the stock market has been manipulated upward for political gain. We know it is vastly overvalued. We know that the underlying worth of the stocks don't support those prices. So it's going to happen at some point. At some point, the mechanism to artificially prop up those stock prices is going to start breaking down. There will be a panic, and it will be a bad one. Because when you have an overpriced stock market like we do, the first ones out, the insiders who know what's coming, they'll get their money. And everybody else is going to be left with nothing more than a report from their brokerage with a very impressive number at the bottom of it. And that's all it's going to be, an impressive looking number. There'll be nothing else there. Iran is saying that if Donald Trump wants cheap oil, instead of trying to arm wrestle OPEC to increase production, that he should simply stop interfering in the Middle East. And this is coming from Iranian Oil Minister Bijan Zanganeh. And have you noticed that every time the U.S. starts mucking about in some other country, prices of everything go up here? Claire and I were at the supermarket just yesterday. Ooh, what a sticker shock. Now, India has announced they will continue to buy Iran's oil. This is coming from their foreign minister. And they're saying India is committed to buying Iranian oil and continuing the two nations' economic cooperation. Now, India is Iran's second largest oil customer behind China. And so it looks like the sanctions against Iran aren't really, they're going to cause some harm. But it's not going to be a complete and total shutdown. What's Donald Trump going to do now? Declare war on all the nations that refuse to stop buying Iran's oil? That's going to be a tough sell here. Down in South Africa, the situation there is getting ugly, but South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, when he spoke to the General Assembly at the United Nations, saying that the South African government is planning to implement these controversial reforms to correct racially skewed land ownership patterns. And he's saying the seized South African farmlands will be shared by all. And he's saying this is all Nelson Mandela's vision. It continues to guide us. And we already saw that tried in Zimbabwe, and it did not work. It absolutely did not work. It will be an economic disaster because you're taking these assets away from the people who know how to use them and make them work and just dumping them on people who don't. That's like taking a drill press away from a manufacturing company and giving it to a bunch of kids. You know that sooner or later there's going to be a big problem. Or a disc sander, or even worse, a bandsaw. Vladimir Putin is commenting on the Europe migration problem. And he says, point blank, the flow of migrants from the third world to the European Union countries will not stop as long as the country's politicians continue to hand out large benefits. Free stuff. And he says, if you're handing out free stuff and you're encouraging migration with large social benefits and other bonuses, why would the flow ever cease? And Putin is saying the immigration problem in the countries of Western Europe, it has a simple explanation and a very simple solution. You have to just end this open borders policy. We have the same thing here in the United States of America. The illegal immigrant problem, we already have laws in place to deal with it. They're just not being enforced. We have mayors and governors who are literally in a state of rebellion against the federal government over the immigration issue, saying we're a sanctuary city or we're a sanctuary state, just bring them all on in. And I think I mentioned earlier in the week, there's a Yale MIT study that says there are now 22 million illegal immigrants currently in the United States of America, and one part of the report says it could even be as high as 29 million. We're talking about a tenth of the population. And they're all going to be voting Democrat this November. Now, Emmanuel Macron is still on the warpath against Brexit. He's all in favor of the EU, the New World Order, open borders, and all the rest of it. And he's saying that Great Britain should be allowed to reverse the decision of the voters because the British voters were stupid. They just couldn't understand how complex Brexit was. And so the British government has perfectly reasonable to call off Brexit and remain in the EU. I don't know how the British people are going to feel about that, but that's effectively what he said, that the British people who voted for Brexit were all idiots who didn't understand the complex issues of building a new world order and a one world government. You know, harumph, 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 harumph. Okay, all right, we're coming up here now on a commercial break, and we'll be back after these few words. Join us on the air, 800-313-9443.
Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle, feeds our body with the nutrients we need to keep healthy. Just listen to what Arthur had to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. And I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product. Thank you very much.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Attention RBN listeners. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, founder of Front Sight Firearms Training, and fate have come together to allow RBN to run another fundraiser till the end of the year. We didn't really expect this opportunity, but thankfully, it's here and running as you hear this. We've set a goal of 500 donations by the end of the year, which averages around 6 per day, 7 days a week. When you realize all the folks listening to RBN all hours of the day and night, we think our goal is realistic and extremely critical to keep RBN on the air. If everybody listening will seriously assess their ability with firearms and then take advantage of this opportunity, we feel our goal is very conservative. Please take the time to look over Front Sight's website to get an idea of an amazing facility and the world-class training that's going on there. If this interests you, you likely will have like-minded friends that would like to know. Tell them. If for some reason some listeners are not personally interested, consider sons and daughters, close friends, nieces or nephews, top valued employees, inform club members, share the opportunity with police and fire departments. It's not too early to plan Christmas presents for special people. This fundraiser has come at an extremely critical time for RBN because the dire need for equipment upgrades. We're running on the spare tire currently with no money to fix a flat, and the fuel gauge is bouncing on E. This is one of the most valuable ways you can help RBN financially because you get Commander lifetime membership value that is 50 times your donation and can be passed on forever. How many times during life do you get to leave a legacy? See more details and contact info on our webpage, republicbroadcasting.org. And thank you.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And once again, we are holding out our hands. And that Front Sight Firearms Academy deal, that is a real sweet deal. And if I lived anywhere in the western part of the continental United States, I'd take advantage of it myself. That's how good it is. If you don't want to go the route of the front site, we still need donations, and there's no such thing as too small of a donation. So the postal address to support Republic Broadcasting, and we really do need it. As John Stadmiller says, equipment has to be replaced. The stuff is burning out. I've lost count of the number of computers I've burned through over the last 24 years doing this stuff. So the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1. And for those of you who want to support whatreallyhappened.com, there is, of course, a PayPal link on the main page. And the network thanks you, and I thank you, especially all of those who have already contributed to keep us up and running, keep us out there, trying to get the truth out there against a tsunami of lies. And there are certainly a lot of those. Okay, the Kavanaugh hearing is currently in recess. They're taking another break on this situation. But I'm getting a lot of emails from people saying how ridiculous this all looks, where all of these allegations against Kavanaugh, they sound like they came out of teenage gossipy tabloids. And it does. It's high school drama. It really is. And like I said, we saw all this back in the 1990s, where women were literally encouraged to point fingers at men and accuse them of all kinds of nasty things as form of empowerment. If you want to get ahead in your place of business, then you've got to get those evil patriarchal males out of your way any way that you can, by any means necessary. And they created this accusation equals guilt mindset. And it's being revived here. We saw it right on TV with like Dianne Feinstein and Mazie Hirono. You know, the women have to be believed. And there's no presumption of innocence. When a man is accused by a woman of sexual impropriety, that's it. Case closed. Let's go right to the burning at the stake. And we've been down that road before. The reason we are a nation founded on laws is not to allow public hysteria to lead us into error. I mean, the founding fathers were very careful in setting up this country as a nation of laws because they were a lot closer historically to what happened in Salem. They saw it get out of control. And I'm sure that a lot of them were thinking about that when they crafted the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We can't have this witch hunt hysteria, whether it's at Salem, Massachusetts, the McCarthy era, the 1990s, or today. There is a presumption of innocence. If you make an accusation, you have to back it up with some kind of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The liberals want to go back to Code Napoleon. You are presumed guilty until you can prove your innocence. We definitely do not want to do that. Okay, getting on into some other stuff here. Apparently, Amazon, AT&T, and Google are now lobbying Congress to pass an online privacy bill. Ooh, everybody's going to say, fine, we're going to get some privacy here. It's not what you think. Okay, all of these companies, along with Twitter and Charter Communications, are pushing for a federal privacy, online privacy bill. What they want to do is head off bills under consideration in states that would be much stronger and more restrictive. So they want the federal government to come up with an online privacy bill that's weak and easy to get around. And Congress might just go ahead and do it, because we got to take our privacy back. And it's not that we're doing anything wrong. I mean, that's always the argument from the surveillance people. Well, if you're doing nothing wrong, why would you care that we're peeking on you? Well, because I'm a private person. Okay? And I know I'm not doing anything wrong. And we have a right to privacy enshrined in that Bill of Rights. And I don't want to be tracked and scanned for marketing data. I don't want my buying patterns known. I don't like to use those so-called discount cards. And by the way, you don't really get a discount at the pharmacy and the supermarket. I don't like using those things. It's nobody's business if I bought a box of donuts. We got to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to mig911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit mig911.com.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And the Kavanaugh hearings have come back from recess. And apparently the Democrats are trying a new tactic. in which Kavanaugh has basically acknowledged that, yes, he did some underage drinking at these high school parties. And I would be rather amazed if those of you listening to the show hadn't once or twice done the same thing when you were in high school. And the Democrats are trying to say, well, if he did these other things, then he must have done these assaults, which is a flawed bit of logic, and the Republicans are calling them on that right now. The overall tone of this, though, is from the email and even from some comments from Mike in our control room, is that the Republicans are coming off looking pretty good in this hearing, and the Democrats are really looking rather bad. They're clearly out there foaming at the mouth, trying to get Kavanaugh any way that they can. And I think anybody paying attention to this is going to see the obvious flaws in their logic and their thinking, their obvious disdain for the presumption of innocence. And I think anybody paying attention to the actual accuser's stories realizes there's really nothing there. I think it may have happened. I think, I'm fuzzy. I don't remember. It was 36 years ago. There's nothing to go on there. You don't recommend life and reputation on, I think maybe I might recall somehow. And yet that's exactly what the Democrats are trying to do. This has gone so far beyond what they did to Clarence Thomas. It really is ridiculous here. Okay, so getting on back here. The founder of WhatsApp, Mike Acton, has now acknowledged that when he sold his platform to Facebook for $22 billion, I mean, that's a lot of money, that he did sell his users' privacy. And he said it did result in a moral struggle because in selling the encrypted messaging app to Facebook, basically allows them to track the information and sell it to advertisers. And by the way, I have a comment about that right now. I know all these companies are making huge amounts of money tracking what we do on our iPhones and cell phones and selling it to advertisers. I think they're dealing with the same problem that the NSA has. They have got so much information, they really can't make sense of it, because I get advertisements for stuff that is completely inappropriate to me and my lifestyle. And I'm pretty sure it's probably because in the process of doing research for whatreallyhappened.com, I'll go to various websites and look at different stories, and there'll be ads there. And as a result, what these advertisers have bought, at least relative to yours truly, is they bought a lot of garbage, because they're doing all this spamming of me with all of these email ads for things that I would never even dream of using. It's wasted effort. It's wasted my time having to delete it. It's a waste of my time having to hit that little button on the bottom saying I'm unsubscribe, and I'm not even sure that that actually works, because I keep getting more ads with the same formatting around them. Anyway. Now, there is a bill that is in Congress right now. It's called the Empowering Financial Institutions to Fight Human Trafficking Act of 2018. It's a House Resolution 6729. It states its purpose is to allow nonprofit organizations to register with the Secretary of the Treasury and share information on activities that may involve human trafficking or money laundering with financial institutions and regulatory authorities under a safe harbor that offers protections from liability. In other words, if you're a nonprofit and you're cooperating with this law and you accidentally discover that somebody that you do business with is committing a crime, you will not be liable as long as you share that information. In other words, be a snitch. Michigan Representative Justin Amash basically took to Twitter to say the legislation actually has a much more sinister objective. And he says it's a disguised effort to expand the Patriot Act. and that the very interesting name about human trafficking and everything was just in there to conceal the bill's true purpose, which is to give the government more power to unconstitutionally spy on law-abiding Americans without a warrant. And while I think Kavanaugh should be confirmed, if for no other reason than to send a message that this kind of dirty politics should not be rewarded, I am concerned over his interpretation of the Fourth Amendment as it relates to mass surveillance. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. Dan in Illinois, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing? Yeah, this whole Kavanaugh thing reminds me of something that happened, had to be around 88 here in Illinois. I remember a guy got released from prison. He was put in prison back in 79 because he was accused of raping a girl at a party. And the girl finally came out like in 88 or something. I don't know how that, if it was DNA or something like that at the beginning that cleared him. But she was standing at the podium, crying her eyes out, saying she accused this guy and he was not the one that did it. So he spent 9 years in one of the great state pens here in Illinois, probably got the tar beat out of him who knows how many times because of a false accusation. That's the kind of stuff that goes on.
Yeah, and let's see. I'm trying to see if that's the same case that I was familiar with. Anyway, the case I'm thinking of was there was this guy, and I'm not going to mention his name because he has a right to get along with his life now. There was this girl, and she was having sex with her boyfriend. She didn't want her parents to know about it, but her mother found some blood stains in the girl's underwear in the laundry and confronted her, and the girl said, "Oh, I got raped, because she didn't want her boyfriend to get in trouble. And so the parents immediately called the police and said, who raped you, who raped you? And she just picked out a guy at random. And he got convicted and sent to prison for 6 years.
This guy was in 9.
Say again?
This guy was in for 9 years.
Now, well, then we're talking about two different cases here. But this guy went to prison for 6 years, and then his accuser apparently got religion. She became a Christian, and at that point, she decided she had to confess what she had done, and he was finally released. But I remember they did use a DNA test to corroborate that it wasn't this guy. And I remember back then, the National Organization of Women was just so totally opposed to DNA testing. How dare you even question the veracity of the women? Same thing that we're seeing here today.
Yeah.
And they absolutely did not want to have DNA testing there because, again, back then, according to the FBI's supplemental crime statistics, rape was the second most falsely reported crime in the country. It was happening all over. It wasn't just a rare occurrence, and there were some serious miscarriages of justice.
Yep. I guess, yeah, and this guy, I guess he got a nice chunk of change, and I think the state of Illinois told him to buy a car and get out of the state. You know how that works.
Well,
still,
I can imagine he'd want to, because even after being exonerated, there's going to be a reputation that follows him around. And I could see him just relocating to another part of the country where nobody knows who he is and starting over.
Yeah, I remember the news media made a big deal out of that. How's he going to change his, reputation and all that? But the thing I remember most is she was standing at a podium, crying her eyes out about what she did. Like, feel sorry for me, not him,
Yeah, I was about to make a comment about that, playing the victim again. No, it was insane. It was insane back then. And like I said, the feminist leaders were encouraging women to do this as a form of empowerment. And plus, of course, you could get your 15 minutes of fame on TV, where, if you had a spectacular rape story, you would be on Donahue, you'd be on Oprah, you'd be on all these shows, you'd be a big TV celebrity. I mean, it got so bad, there were actually T-shirts that women were wearing that were printed, "Potential Rape Survivor." I mean, that's how desperate they were to get on this victim wagon, as it were.
and all these women organizations, they also got money for it because of all these victims, so-called victims. You know, I'm not
Yes.
saying it didn't happen. A lot of them, they got because they were just a number in their ledger, and then they would go and lobby and show their ledger, and they'd get all sorts of funding, you know, to case study this and all this and everything like that, and so it was a big moneymaker for them too.
Oh, it absolutely was a big moneymaker. And getting on back to Christine Hobbs Summers' book, Who Stole Feminism, one of the things that she points out is that during the height of the rape hysteria, colleges were getting funding for rape crisis centers, where they'd get money to literally build a facility on campuses where women who were rape victims could go, and there would be full-time counselors and other assorted people who were on salary, and the staff. And Christine Hobbs Summers says it turned out to be a joke because these rape crisis centers basically, for the most part, sat empty, and the people who were paid to be in there didn't really have much to do. Because it was all hyped up. Yeah, there were some sexual assaults, but no more than had been the case before. In fact, because of all the rape hysteria in the media, the real occurrence of rape had actually declined.
Yeah, it was weird because I remember hearing stories about that kind of stuff going on around where I live.
Oh, yeah.
And so, well, I'll let you go.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go and switch over to Mark in Philadelphia. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, Michael. Yeah, there are many who have been accused of false, harm and gone to prison. And where's the repercussion for the accuser, and where's the repercussion for the prosecuting attorney? But that's a question anyway. I want to go back to what you said about India getting their oil from Iran. Now, wait a minute. As it currently stands, I think the way it's portrayed is Iran is our enemy. But yet, remember what I brought to your attention, that 550,000 H-1B visas have been approved since the first year. So should we be doing business with our enemy's partner or enemy's trading partner? I mean, like, and by the way, India is buddy with Israel. And isn't it portrayed that Iran is like the number one enemy of Israel?
That's certainly the way Israel portrays it, yes.
So, but yet they're buddy. They've got a lot of business dealings going on. Israelis and the Indians and the Israelis that are over here, the dual citizens, they love the Indians. They just love to do business with the, especially putting them in their high-tech businesses, such as Accenture, by the way, which is run by Israeli dual citizens. Yeah, Accenture, which is a big subcontractor to the United States government. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And according to Art in Philadelphia, who is a high-tech guy, a high-tech engineer, this comes from him that Accenture was the big one that when the Clintons did the deal with Gupta, a guy named Gupta, back in the 90s, that Accenture was waiting in the wings to put those deals together to bring the Indians over and put them in place and displace us. So I'm sorry, I don't like it, and now they flaunt themselves. I mean, I'm telling you, when you come across the younger ones, they think they own the place, and I'm sorry, my family's been here a long time. I'm a native son, and I don't think I would not act like that going to their country, but they sure like to act like this. It's theirs. And
it's been a recent change, if you will, because. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I mean, normally when I go to other countries, I try and be respectful. I try and learn the language. I try and be very, polite because I'm a guest in somebody else's home. Let me share a little story with you. When I was working in Germany, and this was back in the 1980s, I finally got a weekend off, and one of the animators who was working with me took me on a tour through that part of Germany, including a visit to his home, and Ludwig's Island Palace, Ehrenchiemsee, which is a copy of the middle portion of Versailles. Very impressive. And while I was there waiting for the boat to take us over to the island, a group of Texans came on in and started acting like, to be blunt, Texans, which were just grating on everybody around there. And I turned to this animator I was with and I said, please don't tell anybody I'm from the same country as those people. So, but again, I agree with you. If you're going to somebody else's country, you should be polite and respectful. And you should be polite and respectful anyway. But you're right. These migrants who are coming into Europe just have this unshakable sense of entitlement that this is their right. And I'm not sure where they're getting their heads filled with this nonsense. If it's part of the indoctrination, as far as the Indian H-1B visas, their attitude may be based on the fact that they know their educational system has prepared them better for the American workplace than the American education system.
Well, I have an example of somebody that I know of, an extended friend of a friend, whose nephew came over from India and got an associate degree. He lived in New York City area, one of the boroughs, and he got an associate degree in business, but what he wasn't getting very far. And then he learned about some kind of a course that he could take, which is took like a week long or 2 weeks, and it cost like $5,000. No, it was like $10,000. And after he took the course, he got a $72,000 a year job. And what was he doing? He was working for a company, and they were filling out forms. Then, not long after, less than a year later, he got promoted. He got transferred to work in the D.C. area for $86,000 a year. And this kid is 23 years old.
Well, nice work
so
if you can get it.
So my take on it is,
okay, Mark, I got to put you on hold.
He's working on
Mark, we got to take a break for commercials. I'm going to put you on hold. We'll be right back after these few words.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Do you or someone you know suffer from chest pain, blood pressure, cholesterol, or irregular heartbeat? Are you looking for a more natural solution to overcome these health challenges? You hear the ads all the time. If this stuff's so good, why doesn't my doctor prescribe it? That's easy. Doctors are not trained in natural medicine. Extendivite Heart Tonic does want you to be as healthy as you can be, and it really works. Take Extendivite for 6 months and your doctor will say, I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop. It's working for you. Get the dependability of Extendivite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. heart attack, or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're finishing up here with Mark in Philadelphia. And Mark, I think there may be another explanation for your perceived arrogance in these Indian workers, and that is they got the visas. They got the H-1B visas. It's kind of like winning the lottery. So they're probably feeling, kind of very superior about that. But you do raise a point. If India is buying oil from Iran, which I have no problem with, I think the issue comes down to the fact that Iran is not a declared enemy of the United States. Therefore, the Trading with the Enemies Act would not come into play. In fact, we haven't got any declared enemies anywhere in the world. They're all implied enemies. Russia's bad, China's bad. Now they're going to start saying India's bad. But we don't have any declared enemies. We don't have any declared wars. It's all this kind of sort of amorphous fog of combat all over the globe. Anyway, Mark, we're going to let you go, and we're going to switch over to Peter in Los Angeles. Peter, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, excuse me, I've got a bad cold, but I wanted to make a couple of points, but it's on two subjects, and one is all this feminist allegations, and a guy is guilty until proven innocent, and there's no way to prove you're innocent ever, pretty much. But at any rate, remember the Duke lacrosse team?
Yes. Yeah.
These guys were convicted by everybody of having, raped this woman and humiliated this black woman. And of course, it got racial, and all the regular, cast of characters went down and weighed in on it. Everybody weighed in on it, and they had an ambitious DA that wanted to get the black vote and all that. And it turned out that it was complete crap. And it was finally, when it was discovered it was complete crap, this girl, nothing happened to the girl, by the way. She almost put these kids in jail. Nothing happened to that girl, and she ended up in jail, like for life or something, or a really long term for some really serious crime later on. But nothing happened. So that was one. Nothing happened to Tawana Brawley, among others. Another false, until we get women going to jail for making false claims, like this chick Ford, if she's willing to cast aspersions on this guy, or in a different forum, maybe send him to jail for years and years and years if it was a different forum. Then she's got to be willing to pony up and get a false claim thing going. And subject yourself that if this turns out to be false, you're going to pay a price for it. Until that happens, this is going to go on. We've got to start jailing these lying people who do these lying allegations.
I agree.
But can you hang on here for a second?
Yeah. Why don't you stay on the line, and we're going to take a break here for station identification, and we'll be right back after these few words. Stay on the line, Peter.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. Phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And we're talking with Peter in Los Angeles about the serious problem of false accusations of rape by women and how they can really ruin somebody's life, and how, at least in this country, not much seems to happen to them when the fraud is exposed. Now, Tawana Brawley was sued for defamation by one of the people that she accused. And I'm looking at the story that is out of Great Britain, where apparently they do take this sort of thing a little bit more seriously, about this woman who invented 4 separate false claims of rape, one of which led to a man being wrongly convicted. Then he was exonerated. They realized she was making it all up, and she went to jail for 10 years. So, good start, but absolutely. And if nothing else, the falsely accused men should consider a defamation case. For 2 reasons. One, obviously getting some financial compensation for their pain and suffering. But 2, if you have a successful defamation lawsuit, that can be used to counter the negative publicity, which is still going to persist in following you around your life.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. Let me make a segue here that's, I think, a pretty apt one. That should also go with people who do false hate crime allegations.
Agreed.
Like the swastika stuff and all that, because that has real ramifications. We have all these safe zones, and it also manifests itself in our loss of freedom of speech because all these ridiculous made-up hate crimes and stuff. But let me make the segue that also in the freedom of speech thing, because I went to Electronic Intifada earlier this week, and I sent this to you, by the way. There was an interview with an American girl from Chicago, American-born, who is of Palestinian descent, who tried to go to Israel. She was on the podcast there, and they interviewed her, and trying to get through Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. And she was stopped by security. She was deported. She kept saying, I'm an American citizen, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the things, not only, it's interesting because she recorded this. She secretly recorded it with her phone. It meant nothing to them that she was an American citizen. They were so dismissive, it was unbelievable. And the embassy didn't help her. But nevertheless, among the things that came out is they came into her and they told her, we have a picture of you when you were 5 years old, wearing Palestinian garb in Palestine, where she had been visiting relatives there. Now, how did they get that this girl was 21 or something. This happened years back, and I go back to the fact that, of course, they've been getting all our intercepts. Again, Israel's getting all of our intercepts from the NSA and the CIA and FBI and all the intercepts we have, the texts and tweets and emails and everything. And they dug that up, and that was thrown in her face. It's just her picture. She wasn't doing nothing criminal, and that had real ramifications. But the second thing is, we had a conversation earlier in the week about one of your other callers called in and said that she was denied a job, or they requested because they knew that her politics are bad on the resume or something. Remember that?
Yeah.
That the corporation stipulated that you couldn't have any political beliefs, and now they can know it because they have access. Corporations have access to your text, your tweets, and your email. By the way, Israel has a very long history, like the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, their big case in the early '90s with Roy Bullock, when the ADL was surveilling black groups and all these stuff, and had to pay a big fine. They kept it quiet. They didn't admit to guilt, but they paid a major fine. But they've been in bed with the Mossad and getting information from the Mossad, just like the drug dealers and the people were getting when the DEA was after people and they were intercepting those phone calls. Remember, and all at once,
yeah,
you know,
that's what led to the discovery of that spy ring just before 9/11.
So now we have, Mike, all this stuff going on. We have the Canary Project, which is a project where, funded by these billionaires, and we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars funding, by the way. It's a major strategic push from the Israelis to kill the BDS movement. One of the reasons why they're doing it is this Canary Project is identifying people like us who believe in the BDS thing, and making sure that that's known. They put it up on the websites and everywhere else, list their names so that employers will never hire them.
Yes.
So, believe me, the Mossad's feeding the Canary Project as well. So they're making every effort to deny us freedom of speech, to deny us jobs, and even making a livelihood here. And it's they have a Ministry of Public Affairs, Ministry of Security, Strategic Affairs, that is coordinating this at the very highest level, reporting to the Prime Minister of Netanyahu, Nazi Netanyahu, that is, obviously integrated with the Mossad and their intelligence operations. It's operating worldwide, and they're trying to smear people like you and me and half the callers in this and other people throughout the United States. And it is a concerted effort. And it's, remember Camera?
Yes.
The thing that's on the campuses where if a professor, tries to, even bring up the fact that the Palestinians have a gripe, a legitimate gripe, they're immediately identified. And of course, now that it's illegal in a lot of states to do that, they lose their job and their tenure.
Yep.
It's complete Nazi crap. So,
and
plus the Israeli training of our cops and everything else as well.
Didn't there used to be a law in this country that said you could not be discriminated against on the basis of race, creed, color, religion, or politics? Why isn't that one being invoked? Why are we? Again, we understand our government is completely under the control of Israel, but yeah, we're turning into this tyranny. We're turning into this absolute tyranny.
Mike, let me make one more comparison, and that is back in the, I would spend a lot of time there. Back in the 70s and 80s, I remember being at Fort Benning when the School of the Americas was going on under that name. And among other things, they would teach people how to, the old sound-powered phones where you crank them by hand from World War II in Korea. Remember those?
Yep.
They would teach guys how to attach them to the genitals and electrocute people and stuff. They were teaching torture. But what we did was we got the military officers, but mostly policemen from Latin America and all around the world, young ones who would come in. They'd go through this indoctrination. Frankly, they would become agents of influence for the United States.
Yes.
Well, that's what the Israelis are doing with their training program in the United States. They're training just like we did with the School of the Americans, training them in all this repressive crap, and they are becoming agents of influence for Israel. And these people now are in these fusion centers, which are, I'm sure, have Mossad contingent or at least a connection to them. And then how about in Chicago, Mike? Remember a couple of years ago when they had the torture centers by the Chicago PD?
Yep.
Under Mayor Rahm Emanuel, the guy who served in the Israeli army, not the American army. And so who do you think they were torturing, among others? You know?
Yes.
I mean, if you piss them off, they will get you. And they set the apparatus up to do it.
It's a bad situation. I mean, we've lost our country. We've lost the country as it was originally created. I don't recognize this place anymore. I just turned 66, and I just don't recognize this country anymore. I'm looking at these politicians, squabbling over Kavanaugh. I'm looking at all this military action around the world. I'm looking at how countries are mucking about with other countries. I'm seeing this constant sellout by our government to Israel. And you have to wonder, is the entire world going insane? And I understand that Israel successfully exploits a lot of different things to gain that control. They've got money, a lot of which they got from the American taxpayer. They're very good at blackmail. They're very good at subversion, and then they always exploit the religious angle. We're the chosen people. God favors us. If you don't support us, you're going against God.
And they have the banks and the media too that echo everything. You never see anything bad in the media or anything at all that portrays them in a bad. Have you ever seen an Israeli villain?
Not that I
recall. The
recall.
Arabs that are doing this to us. The Arabs aren't doing all this. That's just the Israelis. But do you ever see an Israeli villain?
Nope.
Never happens. I keep asking this question, Mike, to people who talk to me about it, and I say, what other group does this, has a fifth column that's so completely in the pocket and so hugely powerful? Well, I mean, is there any group that is even remotely comparable to this? And they couldn't do it without the acquiescence of, if not certainly not everybody in the Jewish community, but enough that it never gets mentioned.
Yeah.
And nobody, and they never shut it up. It's not, they have to be active to shut it up, but they're not doing it. And they're making money off of it.
Oh, yeah. Lots and lots of money. I've mentioned this before, but I remember back when I was in grade school social studies, and we were being warned about, communist subversion of our country, and our country was being subverted. We were just told to look in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, it even goes back to the Bellflower Declaration, which, if you really get into it, was basically a promise that if Britain acquiesced to a Jewish presence in Palestine, that they would bring America into World War I.
Yes.
That they would use their huge presence in the press and the bankers and all that they controlled everything, and get us into World War I. And a year later, there we were, and a President Wilson, who was campaigned in 1916, he kept us out of war.
Yes.
Was inaugurated in February, and then by April we were at war.
Yep.
So it's just they're a fifth column, and this is no game playing. We're nose to nose with these guys. And by the way, one of the things they're so afraid of with Russia and this S-300 is that, of course, the SC-300, the missiles launchers are mobile. They're on tracks, and with a 250-kilometer range, and some of them even more. And you mentioned before that there are S-400 radars at any rate that are already there. They could conceivably shut down Israeli airspace, which would be fabulous. Would lead to war, of course, but they now have the ability to retaliate and say, we can shoot down anything over Israel as well.
Well, what Israel is screaming about, of course, is that with the S-300s, Syria can shoot down Israeli warplanes just as they cross the border into Syrian airspace, which, again, when you fly a warplane into somebody else's country and drop bombs, that's an act of war, and that other country does have a right to shoot back at you. And it's rather amazing that Israel is getting this all huffy attitude of, how dare you shoot at us while we're shooting at you? And it is a little bit ridiculous.
Mike, they admitted to bombing just this year, just last calendar year, 200 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they've admitted to. That's not including the commando raids, and that's not including the fact that they got America into it. And frankly, they dragged NATO into it. We don't have an interest the first in Syria, but we're there. We've been there since Obama. And I mean, we may have started the thing. I think we probably did.
We actually did here, and it's not accurate to say we didn't have an interest, because if you go back to General Wesley Clark, when he blew the lid off the fact that there was this U.S. government policy to regime change or conquer all of the oil-producing nations in the Middle East in order to shackle them to the U.S. dollar, Syria was on that list. So, again, you need to get away from the notion that wars are started for just one reason. Everybody who's in there's got their own situation. Israel wants the Golan Heights. Israel wants a pipeline right of way. The U.S. wants Syria to sell their oil only for the U.S. dollar. And now, of course, they're talking about staying in Syria even after ISIS is gone in order to contain Iran. And again, the Syrian government may have something to say about that. Anyway, Peter, I hope you feel better. Drink lots of orange juice, and we're going to let you go and switch over to Mike in Kentucky. Aloha, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, well, I could offer him some K2 as well, so that he can dose up on the vitamin D3. Taking about 10,000 units is a good dose to start and get that D3 level up. I don't know about you, but Kentucky's had the record highest amount of rain in September, going back to, I think this record started in 1871 with the National Weather Service. So we're all lacking some sunshine, and and the dreary weather is, a lot more depressing than the Cavanaugh-sia, as I've been hearing it called. But I think people at some point got to realize how manipulated they've been for a long time by all this. Curse those that bless you, or bless those that curse you, or whichever it is. I think it's being amplified beyond its original intent. Needless to say, and I'm nothing directed at Claire with her faith, but I think that there used to be a little more superstition in this country spiritually that would have stopped a lot of this. I heard a lot of people talk about how America is not going to be redeemed by some kind of fixation on God, but I think back when people were a little more superstitious about that sort of stuff, it wouldn't have never been allowed to get this far. As far as
I have to disagree with that, because if you go back to a time when people were much more superstitious about this sort of thing, and look at the Inquisition, the witchcraft trials.
Oh yeah, if you go back that far, sure.
Well, that's the counterexample that I think. I see the point you're trying to make, that if people are more religious, that we would not have these societal problems. It doesn't hold up when you look at history. In fact, very often you'll find that highly religious societies are often more violent. And again, look at some of the countries we have over there in the Middle East.
It took a long time, though, for the Christians to defend themselves with the jihad coming at them, and nobody really came out looking good when it comes to the slave trade and everything that was going on, and the economics that was being attacked across the Mediterranean with the jihad for hundreds of years, but for some reason, finally they gathered enough what you would call solidarity and saved, the marching of the burning of libraries and everything that happened back then, playing into that side of the religion. And there's no telling how much stuff we lost because it didn't have any steel in their spine, I guess you could say. But it seems to me like there's a lot of manipulated Christians that just won't act to stop this for fear of that one verse that they're fixated on.
Unfortunately, a lot of religious people, and it's not confined to Christians, they see that the world is in trouble, and they go to their religious service and they pray to their gods to make things better, and they think that's where their responsibility ends. And
somebody else will do it.
Yeah, somebody else will take care of it. The gods will take care of it. The angels are coming to help us. The Lone Ranger's going to ride over the horizon with Tonto. Batman is on his way. It's one of the big lies we all grow up with, that somebody else is always going to fix the problems that we see in front of us, and we don't need to risk ourselves. And it is a pathetic lie.
Faith without works is dead, though. That doesn't get really emphasized enough. And I like to short circuit some of this mentality by saying, look, if you're going to preach it's the last days, who are the Jews that say they are Jews but are not? That's in Revelation 9. So you got to figure that one out yourself. If you're going to preach that this is the last days, I think they're wrong about when the last days was. There used to be a show on this network that talked about that on Sunday evening.
All right, Mike, I'm sorry to cut you off. We got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. We got another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you one from Amazon.com. I just wanted you to know I saw my doctor and I laughed because he said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. I have been taking Extendivite. I had borderline high blood pressure, heart flutter, high cholesterol. I changed my diet and included Extendivite with an amazing turnaround for the better. A few months later, I had a doctor's appointment and took a stress test. I passed. No heart flutter, blood pressure was perfect. My doctor even took me off my medicine. I thank you truly from the bottom of my heart. This stuff works, and I'm so grateful for Extendivite. Thank you, Justin G. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in New York.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. Let's go back to the phones now to Francis in Montreal. Aloha, Francis. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike.
Yes.
I wanted to talk about Trump's news conference at the UN yesterday.
Yes.
And he started talking about the Canada-Mexico free trade agreement. And he was pretty hard on Canada. And I talked to you about this several weeks ago. And it just serves to reiterate what I was saying back then. And what he was saying was that he can't reach an agreement with Canada. And it's mainly because of our chief negotiator, just a really obnoxious woman who's flagrantly pro-Hillary, pro-Democrat. And she's been conspiring behind the scenes against the Trump presidency. And what Trump said, though, was, he says, we're prepared to do a deal with Canada, but they've got this 300% tariff against our dairy products. And that's unacceptable. He says, if they don't change that, and if they seem to be unwilling to move on that, we're going to slap a 25% tariff on Canadian auto products coming into the States. Like, we make parts that are assembled in American factories.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Pat Buchanan talked about this in one of his excellent books on, I think it was America, Republic, Not an Empire. And what he said was, originally, the Free Trade Auto Pact between Canada and the U.S. was under Eisenhower. And it didn't, the peculiarity of this was during World War II, large numbers of blacks were drawn from the South, agrarian business, to come up and work in the North, like in places like Detroit, in factories. They were drawn by the high wages.
Yes.
With the auto pact with Canada in the 1950s with Eisenhower, that sucked all those jobs into Canada because we subsidized our employment here with our medical plan. The Americans have to, the company has to pay for their medical plan here. The government provides it, so it's a subsidy. So that sucked all the jobs up. And Pat Buchanan specifically blames that economic fact for the race riots in Chicago, in Michigan, like in Detroit, in the 60s, I think it was the 67 Detroit riot.
Yes.
And what he says is that the blacks who came to work in the American factories in Detroit felt betrayed when their jobs were stolen away into Canada. So Trump has a lot of reasons why he would like to get those jobs back. Now, if those jobs are drawn by a 25% tariff out of Canada into the States, that's going to basically destroy our entire manufacturing infrastructure here. Like, Canada doesn't have a lot of manufacturing. That's going to just cut the heart out of our industrial manufacturing. And all this is going forward, and it's being done silently because that 300% tariff, as I said, is because of Saputo, which has a monopoly on dairy throughout Canada. And it's very peculiar because people who don't live in Montreal, they've never even heard the Saputo name. If I went to British Columbia or Alberta or Newfoundland and said Saputo has a monopoly on milk and dairy products, they say, what are you talking about? I've never heard of Saputo. But Saputo owns all the dairy production basically in Canada now.
Mm-hmm.
And Saputo is without a doubt a mafia front. In 1982, they tried to buy up a big factory for cheese in Ontario, and the Ontario government kept them out from doing it because of their mafia ties. It's a Montreal mafia, and there's been wars over this. That's why the Rizzuto family, the grandfather got shot by a sniper sitting at his kitchen window making pasta sauce.
Okay, we're kind of
Rizzuto.
wandering far and away here, and I need to pull back because we're about to take another commercial break, and I'm going to have to let you go because we have more callers waiting. I think Trudeau would be well advised to replace that negotiator because if she has that much animus against the Trump administration, then nothing good is going to be accomplished for either party. So I would definitely suggest that as a start.
It's not even the Canadian news media and the Canadian politicians won't even touch this whole business of Saputo being behind that 300% tariff because Saputo is the mafia and they are dictating to the entire news media, and whether it's fear or bribery or whatever, this is Saputo that's doing it, and Saputo is the 'Ndrangheta, which is a Calabrese mafia. And it's in Montreal, and they're all using code language, saying, oh, it's the supply chain for dairy. No, It's the mafia. And they're all afraid of the mafia. Okay? Have a good day, Mike.
People are afraid of the mafia down here as well. I mean, there's nothing new in that. And most organized crime gangs do seek to own legitimate businesses as a front. In some cases, is the case with Canada's Dairy, they can turn that business into a huge success. But yeah, along the way, there's a lot of unethical, immoral, illegal actions being taken. And it makes it hard for well-run businesses to compete. But again, unless Canada's government wants to say that it's too weak to take on organized crime, I think Trudeau ought to maybe make that a priority. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be back with more callers after these few words.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. I'm watching the latest on the Kavanaugh hearings. And finally, the GOP are taking the initiative, and they're grilling Dianne Feinstein as to why she waited so long between the time she got Christine Ford's original letter, or what purported to be Christine Ford's original letter, and then waited until the 11th hour to drop it in what was obviously a maneuver to try and derail the nomination. So Feinstein is on the defensive on that. Okay, let's go back to the phones here. And Frank in London, thank you for waiting. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, number one, Mike, you really got to question whether the Dems, if some of these people, you've got to question whether their brains are melted down on taking too much Prozac or something.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. You know, there's actually a pharmacy inside the U.S. Capitol building.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but I have to admit, I didn't know Lindsey Graham has got it in him. He really went. He was an attack dog today. I'm neither for the Dems nor the Republicans. However, because I look at it, it's like the crocodile versus the alligators.
Yes.
But and that's based on some of the crazy foreign policies that's going on. But I must admit, they really went on the attack. I didn't know Lindsey Graham had it in him, because he really let rip. I was very impressed with him.
Yep.
And I have to admit, the Republicans are looking rather good. To see an innocent man in my book, I've observed this man. I've looked at his conduct, the people who spoke for him, and his time at college or whatever. And he appeared to me to be a quite decent guy in terms of how he conducted his personal life, from what I can see. And this last minute, 11th hour accusation, it stinks, it reeks, and if people vote these people in power, well, you're going to have a nation of crazies. That's all I can tell you. And I think Donald Trump would do well to strike a deal with Erdogan to accommodate these people in a Turkish prison.
Ooh, that's bad. That's cruel. Absolutely. But I've raised the possibility before. I mean, so many people are taking these prescription psychiatric medications, and that has to include our leaders as well. And you have to wonder, is this affecting their thinking? Is it clouding their judgment? And earlier in the show today, I was saying it feels like the whole world is going crazy. And that may be the reason. Wouldn't it be interesting if the world got destroyed because the pharmaceutical industries just drugged all of our leaders into insanity?
But that's quite logical. It's not crazy at all. And another thing is, this is a symptom of a collapsing empire.
Yes.
If we all read history, you look from Egypt to Rome, it's clearly a symptom of a collapsing empire. You see all these crazy madcap ideas come in and sort of get legitimized. Like somebody can get up the next day and said, I decide I'm going to be a coconut tree. And that's what I am, because I've told myself that this is what's happening.
Yes.
It seems to be a degeneration of civilization happening right before our eyes. Forget about the technology or whatever, because that's just masking a degeneration of people's behavior. That's what's happening now.
Yeah, but you're getting them back to what you were saying. Yeah, it is a symptom of a collapsing empire. There's no doubt the United States of America, as we have known it, is coming apart at the seams. And a lot of it is this very bizarre behavior that is actually being encouraged in some quarters, like men using the women's restroom and gender fluidity and all the rest of it. It's people are obsessing about these things. I think it's a symptom of not wanting to face up to the reality that the country is coming apart around them. So they're looking for distractions. They're looking for bread and circuses. Because they don't want to deal with, the very obvious signs that things are coming to an end. Anyway, Frank, we're going to let you go, and we're going to switch over here to Jim in New York. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. How are you today?
Hanging in there.
Okay. Hey, do you remember the show MASH, right?
Oh, yeah, it was one of my favorites.
Well, there's a scene I watched the other night. You remember Colonel Flagg?
Yes.
Bumbling CIA guy?
Yeah.
He says, I think it was Frank Burns he was talking to. He says, the CIA can supersede anyone. Frank Burns says, except the president, of course. And then Colonel Flagg says, give us time.
Well,
that was made in...
Yeah,
go ahead.
That series was made for a contemporary audience, and even back then, people understood how out of control the CIA was. And the Flagg character was a caricature, of course. But I loved the original movie. I read the original book, and it was a very popular TV show. And when I was working at 20th Century Fox, it was still in production. So I got to walk on over and visit the sets and, talk with some of the cast and everything. But it was a great show. And Flagg definitely.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I think that episode was probably about 1974. And then you look at us today. You got the CIA and the deep state. It seems they're fully in charge. And I'm afraid to say Trump, he's just another puppet, like Obama was a puppet. How much, you look at the people Trump is surrounding himself. It's like super neocons.
Yeah.
Pompeo, Bolton, Haley. On the campaign, he said some great things like staying out of Syria.
Yeah.
But it seems foreign policy has been just taken away from him. Well, you go tweet and fight with the media and fight, but foreign policy you leave to us experts. And that's what it seems like.
And they're getting their marching orders from Israel and the military-industrial complex.
Another thing I thought, I remember, and I was kind of like Trump during the campaign, but after he won, and there was Netanyahu giving his congratulations, and he was just beaming with happiness. So
yes.
That had me a bit shaken, like, uh-oh. What the... with Trump, look, there's nothing wrong with having hope. But, a lot of these Trump fans, you can't have a naive, false hope either. They should be alert and scrutinizing him just as much as they should be scrutinizing Hillary. Because, it's like, oh, well, Hillary would have got us into war. Well, it's possible Trump will too.
Well, Hillary would have gotten us there a lot sooner. The problem is nobody will scrutinize Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or any of the deep state. And it's interesting that you do recall that episode from MASH where the CIA character says, yeah, we're gonna be running the president, because that does seem to be the case now. Trump has been this incredible disappointment, and I think he's going to be a one-term president, and he may not even make it through the primaries in 2020.
Yeah, I really don't think he's in charge of foreign policy at all. I think it's been taken from him, and he's just been told, just Mr. President, leave this to the experts. We'll do what we can. But no, and I'd be looking over my shoulder.
It's not just foreign policy. He's dropped the ball on getting illegal immigration under control. According to MIT and Yale, we have 22 million illegal immigrants in this country. Where are the roundups? Where are the buses going on out to pick these people up and fling them back over the border? And he's dropped the ball on dealing with our crooked election system. He's not showing a lot of support for Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s efforts to get vaccines to be safe and effective. Trump really has turned out to be a disappointment. And the only way I would ever support him in 2020 is if Hillary runs again.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, though, if I were Trump, I'd be looking over my shoulder at that Mike Pence. Oh, he gives me the willies. That Pence, I would be like Kennedy should have been looking at LBJ if he wasn't already.
Well, yeah, actually he was. Actually, he was. Kennedy was planning to replace LBJ as vice president during the second term. And LBJ found out about that because one of his staffers was roommates with Mary Jo Kopechne, who was a Kennedy party girl. And she knew that Kennedy had been talking about, trying to get a different VP for the second term. So Johnson knew that he was going to be out. That would be the end of his political career. And of course, later on, Mary Jo Kopechne died in that that car with Ted Kennedy.
Oh, another thought I had. You've seen all these movies of Churchill. There's
Yes.
like 3 Churchill movies out.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, why are they deifying Churchill? I think there's a war coming. Well, of course, I've been worried
there's a
about
war
that
coming.
for 5 years. And you're going to need a Churchill to follow. 3 movies within the last 2 years about Winston Churchill and how great he was.
Well, the last one
And I
was
remember,
actually pretty good. Gary Oldman did a fabulous job. And
Oh, I'm sure they're all good, but it just makes me wonder, what is this, 3 movies in a couple of years? It's amazing.
yeah, we're being driven.
Tells
Anyway,
me yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Michael, thank you very much.
all right,
You
Jim,
have
I
a
got to
good
let you go. We're getting to the end of the show, and I got more calls to get to. We're going to switch over to Mateus in Canada. Aloha, Mateus. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Was it Churchill that made a deal that if America is drawn into the war, that the payback will be that the Jews can go to Palestine?
No, that
Jerusalem
all happened in World War I, where basically the Balfour Declaration was written because Great Britain obviously needed the United States to come into World War I. They were sort of sneaky about it. They were smuggling all kinds of weapons, but that was the deal. That if the American Jewish community could get the U.S. into the war, that Great Britain would basically say, Palestine belongs to the Jews now, which technically it wasn't really theirs to give. Well, the deal that Churchill made, the deal that Churchill made with Roosevelt was a very simple one. Prior to World War II, the global currency was the British pound, off of which the Bank of England made a huge profit. And Roosevelt basically held out getting the U.S. into the war until Britain was really on the edge of collapse to force a deal where Britain would agree to surrender the pound's role as the global currency and allow the dollar to take over. And that was the deal that they made. And once Churchill agreed to that, they basically set up this Pearl Harbor hoax, goaded Japan into the attack, claimed it was a big surprise, and we're off and running to all kinds of blood and death and gore and so forth.
Right. So we can remember this goading the Japanese following like a 1-year, 10-step program approximately to goad the Japanese into Pearl Harbor.
It was an 8-step program.
Let's just remember that while we're watching all these while we're watching all these glorifying movies for Churchill. We're going to remember that.
Yeah, it was an 8-step plan that was crafted by Arthur McCollum.
8-step plan, yeah. Hey, if the collective human race was to be summed up as one person, that person would be diagnosed as criminally insane. Because if a person solved their problems by raping and stealing and assaulting and murdering everybody, 9 times out of 10, that's their go-to way of solving problems, that they would just be locked up as criminally insane. And really, the problem with the world is that the mentality, when you put all of our mentalities together, it ends up being an insane group consciousness, but we're not aware of it. So it's even more dangerous. And so I wanted to say that I'm really surprised that it's still politically correct to kill people on a country level to solve disputes. You notice that? It's like, oh, we're selling $1 billion worth of weapons from here, and we're removing S-400 weapons there, and we're shot down the plane here. Nobody's saying oh, this is completely insane that we think it's okay to murder people to solve our disputes.
People never address the
probably
question.
In 50 or 100 years.
People never address the question. You know, we're raised to simply accept the fact that when our government says we have to go to war, everybody says, okay, we have to go to war. If we're patriotic, we got to support our troops, and we don't question the blood and death on the other side. And right now, those who are questioning the blood and death on the other side are now being filtered out by the corporate social media. So the opposing point of view is there. It's just being hidden from everybody.
Yeah, it used to be politically correct to rape. Just, club someone over the head and rape them, and that was okay. You're not going to go to jail. You're not even going to be ostracized from your community at some point in the past, And then it's now 50-50
that's
okay
just
to kill.
A cartoon stereotype. That idea of clubbing a woman over the head in order to have sex with her. I think that's just a stereotype. In any
back in the caveman days, back in the Roman Empire, the Roman generals would be marching an army and they'd stop and just rape some peasant woman in front of the army and keep going. Like famous historical accounts of this, of Marcus, just raping a peasant woman in front of the legion and then keeping on going. It was socially acceptable, even that recently. So I'm saying, 5,000 years ago, rape was fine. Murder was okay up until, a few hundred, 1,000 years ago or something like that. Now it's 50-50 okay. It's okay if your country does it. It's not okay if you do it. What I'm saying is that at some point in the future, it's not going to be okay to murder for any reason. And I'm just really kind of disappointed.
I would certainly hope so. But, looking back at history, I just see the same patterns repeating over and over. Anyway, Mateus, I got to let you go. We got a commercial break. We're almost at the end of the program. I got 2 more calls I got to get through before the end of the program. So we will be right back.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And we've got two more callers to get through before the end of the show, which is coming up here. Sovereign Man, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Go back to the MASH.
Yes.
You can look for an episode. Well, actually, it's just a snippet. It's on YouTube called Frank Burns Eats Worms. It's kind of like predictive programming. Derek Face wasn't such a bad guy after all. He said he's teaching the South Koreans how to speak English. And he says, get the U.S. out of the UN. And he said, stop putting fluoride in my drinking water.
Okay.
And I recently got a call from South Dakota from a bot. I think it actually said something to the effect that if you're listening to the radio station, via the phone, and T-Mobile is blocking the lines and charging people, try this number. And then it said something about push 9 to be removed from the list. So, just want to let people know that there's bots out there coming to see you to help you listen to RBN.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. We're going to let you go and switch over to Robert in London. Aloha, Robert. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes. Hi. Just going back to Christine Ford at the Kavanaugh thing. On the BBC News said that Christine was giving a very emotional speech.
Yes.
And I'm not going to watch it. So my question to you is, I didn't bother to look at the thing. How was her performance? How was her acting skills? Yeah, do you have a score for her acting abilities?
They're not very good, and the reason they were going that way, they don't have any facts. They've got no facts whatsoever. Yeah. So they're going for that emotional appeal. And I found this clip where somebody sent me this clip from The Simpsons that really says what's going on, which is, your tears are, say more than any evidence could. So the Simpsons understood what was going on about this. But yeah, they were going for the emotional impact. And I think Christine Ford came up short. I could tell she was trying to generate tears, but she didn't get much past a glisten. But I think that's what she wanted to do, about how her life was destroyed by this and how terrible it all.
Give it one for trying.
I'll give her one for trying. In fact, I would, if I were going to critique her performance, I would call it a valiant effort.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know. Thanks very much.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And we're going to let you go.
To you all the time.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm listening to you all the time.
Good.
As much as I can.
Good. I appreciate that. RBN appreciates that.
Cheers now.
All right. Have yourself a good evening here, and we're going to close the phone lines. Got a couple more stories here before the end of the program. Apparently, Twitter has announced they're going to ban what they describe as dehumanizing speech. So it's, again, Twitter has become useless. All the social media has. It's all politically correct. It's all filtered. Okay, there's the music. Time for Claire and I to get out of here. We got a lot of stuff to do this afternoon. And unfortunately, we've got a monster storm headed in as well. So we got to dodge that. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got a lot of interesting things to share with you. Take what you learn here, share it with everybody. Use email, face-to-face contact, pamphlets, brochures. Don't waste your time anymore with social media. And again, please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We are just struggling along here right now. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility?